Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Fueling Growth podcast. I say good morning. It could be good afternoon or, in fact, good evening, depending on where you are listening or what time of the day you're listening to. My name's Phil Seaver, and I am the host of the Fueling Growth podcast. Now, today, in a slight change, we're not only online, which we've tried that once before, and it worked really, really well. But there is a different person in the room with me today, and because we're online, you can see exactly who's in the room with us already. But rather than having Steve or Martin from Fuel in the room with me today, we have Sevi. Sevi, good morning and welcome to the Fueling Growth podcast.
Good morning, Phil. Good to see you. Nice to make my debut on the podcast. It's been a long time coming.
Well, it's a long time debut for someone of your age, I would say.
That's very true. Yes, yes.
Isn't it? Let's start with something offensive. Right now, you know the rules of the engagement, Sevi. You and I, we're not allowed to be in a podcast on our own because, well, it'll all go wrong and we'll end up talking about football, which is probably what we would end up doing if we were just alone. So, can you tell me who you've got and introduce the guest that you've brought with you today, please?
Yep, be delighted to. Today we are joined by Jade and Lee from Stored. Stored is a partner that Fuel have been working with for, I'd say about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, when we first kicked off our relationship. Been a great help to us, done some great work with some of our clients. So we wanted to bring them in, get them to talk about what they do and just spread the word, really. Yeah, delighted you guys could join us.
Well, good morning, Jade and Lee. Welcome to the podcast. You're most welcome.
Delighted to be here. Thank you.
Now, I know that we've had some issues getting this up and running, and we've had probably, I don't know, 5, maybe 6 attempts at having. So this should be pretty good. Now we've finally got here. This should be a good one.
Yeah, you got to build up a bit of anticipation for these things.
No pressure, no pressure. Right. Let me start. I'm going to start with you, Lee, and then I'm going to move on to Jade. Which Jade, that's your opportunity to think about what you're going to say when I come to you in a minute. But Lee, do you want to give us a little bit of a name, rank, and number, who you are, what you do, and how you fit into the equation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Lee. I am one of the co-founders of Stored. So background is in payments, spent 9 years at large corporate acquiring businesses or payments businesses. And then in about 2022, started thinking about some changes we were seeing in that industry and how I might be better placed to solve some of those if we went out into a more agile business environment like we've managed to build with Stored.
Right. Okay. And Jade, do you want to do something similar? How you work with Lee?
Yeah, so I'm Jade. I also come from the same payments background as Lee. So we worked together for, I think, about 8 years before. Yeah. And then I joined Stored and I am now a customer success manager. So I help bring on new clients and obviously maintain those relationships.
Right. Now, Sevi, just so that you're not off the hook, your bit now, can you tell us how you work with these guys? And what I'm looking for from Jade and Lee is kind of once Sevi's done his bit, if you can give us an idea of kind of examples of how you've really helped people and businesses and brands, because I think once we get that, starts to become a lot more real, because we can all talk about the payment industry, don't quite know what that means, but if you could give us some real examples, that would be great. But we're going to kick off with Sevi. Sevi, how do you work with these guys?
So yeah, the relationship kind of came around because my department, the things I do at Fuel are all around growing revenue through websites for our clients and finding partners, finding solutions that help them solve a problem in reaching an audience or working with a specific person. Where we found Stored's been excellent and where we've used it initially has been in growing sort of influencer campaigns and advocate campaigns for certain brands. We've been able to create mini storefronts that are shoppable. We'll be able to create product ranges with QR codes that are easily scannable and purchasable. And it's really kind of filled a gap for some of our clients where we didn't quite know before how to make this relationship work with a partner that they really wanted to be working with. Stored has just filled that gap brilliantly, and it's done it for a number of clients now. What we'll probably find out from Lee and Jade is there's a whole host of other solutions and ways to use that we've not even been able to tap into yet. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that stuff with people.
Is it fair to say, Sevi, that what these guys do in conjunction with yourself is help businesses monetize what they do? Because maybe I'm being naive, but I get the impression there's lots of people that have got really good business ideas that they may, start up on a Saturday evening over too many bottles of wine. And then they get to Monday and they go, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to bring this to market without the traditional route of saying, I'm going to open a shop? It's kind of bringing that to life and allowing them to do that. Is that fair to say, or is that completely off track?
And I think that's part of it. We've certainly been able to help people who maybe don't have a website to sell online find a way to sell online through this solution, which has been really helpful and been really useful. So yeah, it definitely fills a gap that some of our clients just haven't been able to find a way to fill until now. So
I'm going to come to you in a minute, Lee. So you've got about 30 seconds to think of something to say. But more importantly, I did some research for this, and it's proper research for me. I very rarely do any research.
Honored.
Surprised, you'll be not surprised to hear that. But my research included watching The Intern last night.
Okay.
Which is the film with Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway, the wonderful Anne Hathaway, not just because she's a wonderful actress, but because she's an Arsenal fan as well and a devoted Arsenal fan. But I digress. But I watched that, and it's a story of a woman that comes up with an idea on Saturday night over a kitchen table, and then eventually she can get it to market and she can get it online to market very, very quick, and it becomes hugely successful. That's kind of what we're talking about here. And I think in a way, facilitating that journey for people is a wonderful thing to be able to do, because I think there are too many businesses that stop at that very early stage. And I'm hoping that you're going to give me some examples of how you've helped people. So Lee, let's hear some examples. What have you been up to?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that use case you've just described in a perfect world is exactly how things would work, right? I've had an idea.
If my research was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I've seen the film actually, but it's a film. It's not necessarily real life. So I've had an idea, and tomorrow I can get that idea live, and we can just start selling it, and it's all great. That's how it probably should work. And actually, it's even more important now than it was 5-10 years ago, because when we talk about online transactions and digital transactions, it's not just your website necessarily. It could be your social media pages that you've got 10 of. It could be WhatsApp. It could be a text message. It could be email. There's all these different points of connection between a business and its customers or potential customers. And so the idea that I have that idea, but I need a mechanism to move people from whatever way I communicate with them into a buying journey so I can monetize that idea, should be something I can do quite quickly. Unfortunately, it's not, right? Or it hasn't been historically. If you look at building a website, even something fairly rudimentary, it's probably going to cost you north of 4 figures, because you're going to need to get a developer in, you're going to need to get some support in from a design perspective, all those things that have to happen. And it's probably going to take you, in our experience, upwards of 6, maybe 12 weeks by the time you've built everything and kind of deployed it. And so we just had this concept that, wouldn't it be great if you could do that in 5 minutes? And that's what we've tried to build, and we have built. So you asked for some examples. I think we've got a couple of clients that we've worked really, really closely with Fuel around, where for them it was specifically around social. So one company said, talk about probably Red is a good example.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
So in fact, their model, or the model that they wanted to build out, was that they would go out and find influential people within their space. When people say influencers, they think Kim Kardashian, right? But it's not necessarily that. It's someone in the space that I operate who has an audience and some credibility with that audience that can maybe talk about my products.
So just give me, just explain to people, because I know who Red are, but who are Red for the people that are watching?
So do you want to take that one, given that they're your...
Yeah, can do. So we work with Red. I think they're probably very famous for the paddle boards, but they have a lot of products around that outdoor lifestyle, people who spend time at the beach, around open water. And yeah, that's a client where we actually ended up working with them in Australia, wasn't it? Rather than the UK, we did some work with their Australian team and found some great sort of social groups that they wanted to engage with, wanted to offer a selection of products, but these people would use on their weekly get-togethers, their monthly get-togethers, and yeah, put together a selection of products and made them shoppable. Obviously, these are also some of them are charitable causes, so they're able to raise a bit of commission through the sales and track all that activity. So for everyone involved, it just solved a few difficulties they were facing, enabled us to launch the partnership, and yeah, there's some really good results from that.
And what sort of results are we talking about here?
Well, certainly the sales numbers are in the thousands, I think, across the campaigns that we ran, which was awesome. They ran for several months, and yeah, I think there's sort of been discussion about trying it in other territories and looking further afield. So yeah, it went really well.
So Lee, let me bring you back in to just sort of put some meat on those bones.
Yeah, absolutely. So just picking up where I kind of left off there. So if you think about this point of kind of what an influencer is, in that space, in that environment, you've got lots of specific instances where somebody has a probably quite a small audience, right? Maybe I'm running a paddleboarding class, 10 people are coming to that class, and there's therefore an opportunity for me to talk about Red's products, right? That wouldn't traditionally be something that you'd invest time and capital in monetizing, because the unit economics wouldn't work.
Sure.
That's why people think of Kim Kardashian when they think influencer, because it's worth me building a landing page and investing some marketing capital in getting her going, because then I get to billions of eyes and ears. In that use case, maybe they've actually got a lot more credibility with those 10 people that are stood in front of them. Even if all 10 of them buy, the investment it historically would have taken wouldn't be worthwhile, right? What we were able to do is to arm them with a piece of technology that lets them not just create a buying mechanism for those 10 people, but create something that is branded and aligned not just to Red, but to that expert. So maybe imagery is the paddleboarding teacher. When he said paddle teacher, then I think that's topical at the moment as well, isn't it? Different sport. And by doing that, we were able to set up multiple shops. I mean, Sarah's just talked about the fact we started in Australia, but when we look at different markets, all of a sudden a different market isn't a huge 6-month planning process. It's, can we find one person in that place who has audience and give them a storefront? And by the way, if we can, give us 10 minutes and we'll have it in their hand.
I mean, it's a really interesting one, because it's living proof that the market has moved on significantly from the traditional way of idea, retail, customer, money. And it's moved on to such an extent now that there's all sorts of there's a myriad of different ways you can get to customers, acquire them and persuade them to buy, and then for them to be happy and then to repeat as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's very much a sort of modern way of thinking and facilitating, really, isn't it?
I mean, Phil, it really starts with, and we started when I mentioned in 2022 was when we started the business. Actually, the starting point was very different to where we've ended up. It's the same sphere, but we were focused more on the consumer side of this problem statement. And I think you have to start with the consumer behavior before you end up where we've ended up. And so what's changed in consumer behavior in the last 5-10 years? Well, social media now dominates the way that we interact with businesses, dominates the way we interact with brands. We've always got our phones in our hand. So all of the communication that we have and all of the kind of contact points that we have with a business are digital, right? And we expect those points of contact to be able to give us whatever information we want and allow us to make that purchase, if we so wish, in seconds, not in minutes or days.
Look, I mean, I want to bring Jade in on another example if we can, but one of the things you just said there, I think, is really, really key, and that is, and I see this, I've seen this throughout my career. A lot of businesses think about their business from a business perspective, from their business perspective, and not enough people, from what you're saying, think about it from the consumer's perspective. And I think that's a mind shift that has to happen if you want to have a successful business these days. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, if you do that, you understand that your consumer's coming at you from 10 different directions and expecting the same seamless buying journeys, regardless of where they hit you from. But the technology, like the big businesses, the John Lewis's, the Marks and Spencer of this world, are investing millions and tens of millions in serving those journeys. But for the average SME or mid-sized business, that's just not possible. So how do we arm them with the tools to meet that consumer need requirement?
I mean, Jade, those sort of size businesses, are they your clients traditionally?
Yeah, I suppose so. But I suppose with Stored, it can kind of be suitable for any kind of business. It depends what that need is. So we could obviously support a startup, or we could support a fully functioning business.
Well, I guess in a way, I mean, they're not a startup, they're an
No, yeah,
established business. You guys have come in and have shown them a slightly different channel, a different route sort of thing.
yeah, exactly.
Now, have you got any other examples of a really, not necessarily that you've done with Fuel or with Sevi? So block your ears at this stage, Sevi. I mean, any other examples that a particularly good campaign that you've worked on?
So it is a mutual client with Fuel again. So we had a CrossFit company that the owner of that went into gyms and asked athletes to obviously promote his products to their followers or like their students. And with doing that, we were able to build each athlete their own customized, tailored campaign. So it'd be like a video or image of them using these products, and then they could obviously recommend these to the people that they train.
Yep.
And that we saw a really good increase in sales. And I think they had like 40 plus athletes using it.
I mean, what sort of sales? I mean, look, we don't need specifics and we don't need names, but I mean, what sort of a sales shift is a significant sales shift?
So for them, it was a 25% increase in sales.
I mean,
I'll gladly say.
I mean, that's not insignificant at all, is it? That's business changing numbers. Just a quarter of your business on top.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and what sort of range of clients have you got at the moment?
It can range from anything. So we have a lot of hospitality on our book. We have retail. We have some B2B businesses, businesses offering services. So there's countless.
I mean, wait, it's everyone that's in business, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it comes back to this thing of, showing people that there's a different way, a new way. It's almost as if people or business owners probably know where they want to get to in terms of sales, and they know who their end customers are. They just don't necessarily know the bit in between, which is how you get to them.
That absolutely is what we do. And there's also, another kind of slightly more negative side of this from those business point of view, which is they're under a huge amount of pressure at the moment. You've only got to switch on the news for 10 seconds to see that like cost of living and all that stuff that's affecting people as individuals. But if you're a business owner, some of those changes are incredibly difficult to manage and to handle. And so Jade mentioned there, we've got hospitality businesses. We were speaking with one a couple of weeks ago who said 5 years ago, it was enough for me to sell a really good craft beer. I could run my business on that. I would make decent margins, and that was enough. Now, if I'm not monetizing every other angle of the building and space that I've got, and the product and the potential to monetize things like merchandise and product, then I can't survive. So all of a sudden, he's hosting events, which means he needs some mechanism of taking a payment for a ticket. He wants to sell gift vouchers through the social media channels that he's had to build to engage with his customer. And all of those things for a business that we wouldn't think of as a retailer, but is having to do retail things in a digital space, we're perfect for.
And I guess in a way, it comes back to this thing of as the market shifts, as the world changes, you're going to have to find new ways of acquiring customers.
And those customers will be different, right? You've got this next generation coming through that have grown up with a phone in their hand and have got, a really short attention span. There's a statistic I see that says if it takes more than 2 seconds online, 53% of people don't do it, which is incredible, right? But that means forget whether it's Stored or whether it's another piece of technology, you've got to be able to move someone from A to B like that. And that's only going to change as the demographics shift as well. It's only going to get more.
The most incredible bit about that stat is that that's our headline for this podcast right there. So thank you. I don't have to do any more thinking about it, which is brilliant.
No problem.
No, I mean, look, it's a fascinating market, and as I've said, it's about looking at things in a different way. And I do get the impression. Listen, I've spent 30 odd years in comms, in the comms industry, and sometimes it's the same problem over and over again. Businesses know what they want, they just don't necessarily know how to get there. And you've just opened up the door to them. I mean, look, it's a fascinating business. I mean, Sevi, presumably there's a future in this in terms of your relationship with the guys at Stored anyway. So, from your perspective, how does that work going forward? Are you looking to grow or?
Yes, yeah. So we mentioned a couple of campaigns we put together for different clients. We're in conversations with more. I think the big thing for us is that I tend to come to a client looking at the angle of how do we grow revenue, because we work on the website and we're trying to get eyes on. The idea of like brand advocates is massive for a lot of people, as Lee's touched on. We look through social media for products. We look for people to recommend things, review things. This fits into that perfectly. It's sitting down and having the conversation with clients and understanding what's the difficulty, what's blocking your route to market or this partnership. Here's something that can help us alleviate that. Here's some people to work with who really know what they're doing, offer a great solution. If I can use it, anybody can use it, which is a massive tick in the box. So yeah, we think this is something that'd be really good for us, certainly the rest of this year and beyond. It's been really helpful so far, and it only continue to be.
Well, look, I'm gonna wrap it up, but what I don't want to sound old-fashioned about this, but clearly you're onto something here. But then you're onto something here, and it keeps coming back to the simple thing. I think businesses know they need to do something, they just don't quite know how to do it. And you guys, between Sevi at Fuel and yourself, Jade, and yourself, Lee, and your business Stored, you're actually just bringing that to life, and you're almost grabbing clients by the hand and walking them through the forest, because I can see that the opportunity for sales and the opportunity to revenue are there. You just don't know how to do it, and you are the guys that show them how to do it. So I'm very, very grateful that you have taken the time. Finally, we've got you to sit down on the podcast. Honestly, if we had the same issues with everyone else that we had as a guest on the podcast, we'd never get any done. But it was definitely worth it, because I think you've opened certainly my eyes, and hopefully the eyes of everyone else that's listening and watching here on this podcast. You've opened their eyes to how it can be done and a different way of doing things. So I'm very, very grateful for that, and I'm very, very grateful for your time. And Sevi, thank you as well. So guys, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Phil.
Cheers, Bill.